Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamu alaikum viewers. I'm your host Faizan Naqi with a prayer. May Allah keep you all safe, healthy and blessed. And may Allah fill this world with justice and peace, inshallah. Ameen. Today, as we all know, we will discuss the topic related to Gaza starvation war, which is going on from a long time. And there is no, Hamas says there will be no discussion will be going on regarding regarding hostages deal or any kind of ceasefire deal unless starvation war is finished or ends, because help is not going inside Gaza and people are dying every moment, every passing moment. In every 40 to 45 minutes a child is dying over there with out of hunger or out of war or out of disease whatsoever. So situation is really bad over there. So we will try to look into that situation. There was a there was an attack from Yemen to Israel as well. So what's going on between Israel and Yemen? So we'll try to touch upon that as well. What is current status of that situation, and what kind of capabilities Yemen now has got that it is attacking Israel directly. And we will also look into the situation between India and Pakistan, especially from Kashmir perspective, because this tension has heightened the issue of Kashmir itself as well, in just like what happened in Gaza before 2 years. So we will touch upon these issues, and we do have a very prestigious guest with us. We do have Dr. Inayatullah Andarabi, and who is an analyst and writer, and we do have Sister Ayman Musfi. She is a political analyst and journalist, and we do have Farahu. He is director of Palestine Aid Charity. He is also an activist and a journalist and author. Assalamu alaikum and good evening to all of you. Thank you so much for joining us today. First of all, Farah, I would like to get some current updates regarding situation within Gaza, especially the starvation war. How do you see that, and what resemblance does it have between Gaza starvation war and African starvation war or something like that? So how do you see the situation over there, if you can briefly update on that situation?
Okay, thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Good evening. Yes, it's barbaric. I mean, anyone who's following on social media, even today, like nearly 2 years into this genocidal onslaught on Gaza, there's very little on the mainstream news. There never has been. It's not like there's war fatigue. There's war fatigue from the people in Gaza and indeed the West Bank, Lebanon, Syria, and Yemen. But there's no war fatigue from the British mainstream media. If we could maybe focus on that for a second, because they've never really covered what's happening. They've never given a true account of what's happening on the ground with this genocidal onslaught. So as the director of Palestine Aid, we're a registered charity here in the north of Ireland, we were able to feed 15,000 displaced Palestinians with 225,000 meals from March 24 to March 25. Indeed, up to about 4 weeks ago, we were able to get money into Gaza, and any commercial suppliers that still had some form of kind of food reserves, we were able to buy them, and we have a team on the ground that are able to distribute the food on our behalf. So like about £100,000. But I'm just mentioning the charity, just mentioning the food because of the starvation, because we are being told that people and families for the last 3 days, people that we know personally, cannot find or source food anywhere. So there's something like, please forgive me if I'm wrong, is it like 50 or 60 children already who have died through malnutrition. So the very young and the very old are the most vulnerable. The Zionist fascist state is using starvation as a weapon of subjugation. But it's even more than that. They're kind of saying they will use like total war. They will use ultimate pressure to be put on Hamas for the release of the hostages. But when the Zionist cabinet decided on this it's a scorched earth policy. There'll be no building left. And I think they plan to have no buildings left, no infrastructure left, no people left at the final outcome of what they're doing as their final solution. If it's okay to use that particular phrase, this is their final solution to their supposed Palestinian problem. So we know for a fact that there's people dying. I mean, I've seen horrendous photographs. I mean, I've seen photographs of people who look exactly like the people in the concentration camps in Germany and in Austria and in other places when they were finally liberated by the Soviet Union, among others, in 1944, 1945. Totally emaciated, like walking skeletons. So they're using starvation. One of the Israeli ministers recently said there won't be so much as a grain of wheat will enter to Gaza. So they're murdering the people with bombs. They're murdering the people because the hospitals lack the medicine that's required. They're amputating limbs of people without anesthesia. People are literally watching their families, if they're not getting eviscerated through the bombing campaign, they're watching their children and their parents and their siblings die day by day, hour by hour, in front of their very eyes. So I cannot imagine what it must be like to watch people die in front of you when the most moral, loving aspect of being a parent, to protect your child, safe, security, somewhere safe to live, a loving environment to grow up in. People aren't even living in tents. They're living in the streets. They're living on the rubble, in the open, exposed to the elements, and they're watching their family and especially their children die directly in front of them. And Netanyahu said just recently, to paraphrase it, he said that Hamas is the number one target and the hostages are secondary to that. So it proves all along that this, we will bomb you, we will starve you, we will murder you, we will exert maximum pressure in order to force the resistance groups to hand over the remaining captives. It's been a twin approach. They've said we will destroy Hamas and we will release the hostages. But now the truth is in the open that it is the total destruction of Gaza. Again, so first it's the hostages, then they tell us the truth. Well, really what we want to do is destroy Hamas. And now what we're witnessing is it's not the destruction of Hamas, it's the destruction of Gaza, the infrastructure, and now the people. So, it's horrendous, it's heartbreaking. And just finally, I don't want to take up too much time, but not only will they not let one grain of wheat go into Gaza, they attack the boat, the Conscience. I have an Irish comrade who is on the boat. So not only will they not let aid in, but if you want to bring aid in because you feel morally bound to come to the assistance of people in distress, that was attempted murder. 2 drones fired at the ship in the small hours of the morning is attempted murder, and I believe a few people had some minor injuries. So they won't let food in. They're killing Palestinians. The Western governments are totally complicit, the USA, the EU, especially Germany. And if you, as a person of morality and humanity, want to go and help the people in Palestine, they have absolutely no compunction not to murder you if you decide to stand up against their racist fascism. And when people say, if only we knew in 1945, perhaps we could have done more to save the millions of people who died in the Holocaust. Well, everyone knows what's happening now. The complicity of the West is there for everyone to see. And I don't know how we stop it, but we must continue to voice our concerns and try our best to help the people on the ground.
Thank you for updating about the situation within Gaza. Sister Iman, if you would like to add anything about that, you can add. And how do you see the situation between Yemen and Israel? Because recently they attacked in Israeli airport. So what how do you see that situation, and how do you see the situation of resistance group within the region, like Hezbollah, Hamas, and all that? What are they up to? Are they and what are their capabilities separately, or if you would like to share something about that?
So, Yemen's recent strike, which hit near Ben Gurion Airport, was a clear indication of Ansar Allah's strength, its capacity, its motivation. They were able to bypass 4 layers of defense systems, including its Arrow system and the US created THAAD system. So, we're talking about systems here that use missiles which cost millions of dollars each, whereas we know that Yemen is not spending anywhere near that amount of money. Generally speaking, we know that the resistance functions on a very different philosophy. They have a policy of being trained to use and reuse scrap material and locally sourced resources within their nations to create their weaponry. That's not to say that they're not supported by other nations. Of course they are, but they are not entirely dependent on them in the way that the West would like you to think. They are not importing the majority of their defense mechanisms from elsewhere, which the occupation, I think, is increasingly finding itself doing due to the scale of the assault that they face. And I think that this recent strike was, we have to remember, it was on top of previous ones against Israeli airports, and also their operations in the Red Sea, where US vessels have found themselves as repeated targets of Ansar Allah's strikes. It was only recently that the US had been honest about the level of damage that they have suffered in the Red Sea because of Ansar Allah's persistence. The Biden administration actually flat out denied instances of attacks on their ships. But under the Trump administration, we're seeing a bit of a shift in the rhetoric. So we've seen their level of frustration towards Ansar Allah in their rhetoric, and we've actually seen this in action as well with the renewed assault, costly assault on Yemen, which started back in March, to apply pressure on Ansar Allah to change its long-standing equation, which has been very clear from the start. To get the strikes to end, the aggression on Gaza must end. It's that simple. Now, the issue is the US greatly underestimated Ansar Allah's commitment to that equation, despite the clear fact that Ansar Allah has remained steadfast in its position since the start of this war, even when it's been under direct fire and a direct US aggression. Even the strike, which made impact near the Israeli airport, was in response to the occupation's decision to expand its military operations in Gaza, which again shows its commitment to that equation. So in a way, the Israeli occupation has brought on itself a comprehensive air blockade by Yemen. It's bringing assaults on itself, which has already led to major airlines cancelling flights to Tel Aviv. So Yemen alone is causing huge loss for the occupation and the US. I mean, economically speaking, millions of dollars propping up these complex defense systems are going down the drain. It speaks to, I think, an evident decline in the US military's strategic prowess and its effectiveness, and also its adaptability. And on a psychological level, I think it's destroying that kind of myth of untouchability that both the US and the occupation had relied on for decades to keep the region in a tight stranglehold, especially after the 1967 war. And all of this just kind of confirms that historic fact, which is that material strength, or at least having the upper hand in this area, is not the determining factor of success. Commitment is, will is, adaptability is, and Ansar Allah is really leading the charge in that area. And the US and the Israeli entity, they can continue their assault on the nation as it is now. We've already seen reports of many airstrikes on Yemen and even its airport today. But as Ansar Allah has made clear again and again, their military operations will not end until the assault on Gaza does. And considering their track record, it's very unlikely that they're going to budge on this. And the US will either have to accept that or adapt to that reality.
Thank you, Sister Musi, for updating about the situation within Yemen and the kind of capability at the moment they are having, and the kind of situation within Israel going on. Dr. Andrabi, what are your thoughts, especially regarding this, as we have discussed last week, between situation India and Pakistan, and especially from that perspective, it has heightened the issue of Kashmir itself as well. So, how do you see the current status of that whole situation? Do you think India and Pakistan would really attack on each other? Because we are also hearing some information. I'm not sure how correct it is. You can shed some light on that. That certain groups are also gathering in Kashmir, and obviously there are certain talks are going on between India and their other groups they are collaborating with whatsoever. So do you see that anything bigger is coming between India and Pakistan, and Kashmir might rise up again on its own, or resist, just like Hamas resisted in Gaza, for instance? And how do you see the whole situation? What are the most important points regarding that situation, updated situation at the moment? Would like to share?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yes, before coming to this Kashmir, India, Pakistan, I will make a brief comment, and I endorse the comments on Gaza by both our guests, Fra and Ayman Mosavi. By the way, Ayman looks very much like my youngest daughter, and since she's not home, she's in studies at France, Paris, and I really miss her. We miss her, and seeing Ayman was it was a pleasure. She talks like her. I mean, very much looks like her. She's also very much with this Gaza thing, and I've told her her name Albab and Rabi. Maybe Ayman might find her on Instagram or somewhere, because she's very actively involved. So yes, about this Gaza thing, one thing I mean is seems to be clear. People like me who have been watching this at a rather macro level, and I mean who have been basically dismissing the idea of Israel or Israel as a state or anything, but looking at Israel as a Zionist project, and very keenly watching how the creators of this project, the Imperial West, how do they rethink? Will they rethink now, or will they continue insisting on this Zionist project? It seems they are not likely to give up soon, and since they are not giving up, and since the resistance is becoming more and more determined by the day, the conclusion is that the Zionist entity is heading to self-destruction. As we just we just noted that Tel Aviv airport, their main international airport, with all that iron dome and everything, a missile landed very much at the airport itself. And Israel's closest friend, India, they have also cancelled flights to Tel Aviv. So obviously, I mean, Israel is chasing goals which are not realistic. I mean, Israel is chasing the goal of finishing the resistance. Israel is thinking that if they make peace with Gaza, again something will happen. So Israel does not want to see any resistance, because, as I have said before this also, that the Zionist project was launched on the premises that there will be a safe neighborhood. Nobody will interfere. It will be a sort of baby which was delivered in the lap of the subservient Arab regime. Look, you have to protect this baby, and they were protecting it. They were protecting it at any cost, at at the cost of their people, at the cost of Islam, everything. They were doing this, but things have been disturbed after the Islamic Revolution of Iran, and new realities have come up. So this this Zionist project, I mean, whatever they are doing now, it is obviously leading to self-destruction, because the other side, the resistance, is not going to give up. That's 100% certain. So now coming to this India, Pakistan, Kashmir thing, I mean, it's something very important that's now happening. There's a potential danger of war, although the expert opinion says that war may not take place because it will be absolutely destructive. And there's a lot of investment of billions, best investment in India, in the cities of Delhi, Bangalore. Bangalore is a bit far in the south, but Delhi is very much within the range of Pakistani missiles. So war may not take place, and for a correct understanding, we must have we must get a proper understanding of this current ruling regime in India, the BJP, its historical and sociological genesis, roots, because that's very significant. This is a ruling elite, this is a ruling class which has come from the RSS, Rashtriya Swamik Sangh, which was formed in 1920 by Indians who were not Western educated, by the Indians who were native, who drew the sense of nationalism from ancient India, who said that before 3,000, 4,000 years, we were the people, and they believe it. They say that we had great kingdoms and we had aeroplanes also. They call it Udan Khatola. Udan Khatola is a Hindi term for something which flies in the air. There's a Bollywood film also about Udan Khatola, but leaving that apart, this Udan Khatola would have been a fiction. But this government, this ruling class, they believe in these things. Their officials who are trained in science, they have said these things in Indian Science Congress. Indian Science Congress is a conference which takes place every year in India, where new scientific things are presented. A BJP-minded guy, he was presenting this as that we have this. We were flying aeroplanes, and we were doing organ transplant, and they say that they have that elephant god, but that god's head, it was cut by another god, but then they put elephant's head into that. So organ transplant was also there. They were highly advanced. They draw their sense of nationalism from those years, 3,000, 4,000 years. So this is a special class of ruling class, and they are now ruling India. One relevant thing which I need to tell you in this program, I mean, I can't go into more description, it will take time, but one relevant thing is that they are like Netanyahu, they are cowards. They can't go to war. You can see just from 22nd April, I think the Pahalgam event took place. You can simply, if you focus on that, you can see that it was a war fervor. It was they raised a pitch for the war, and then the American vice president was there. The American intelligence chief, that Tulsi, she was not there, but she phoned them that we are with you. So America supported them, and they were all out. Modi, the Prime Minister Modi, he called an all-party conference, but he skipped it and went to speak on a public gathering in a Hindi-speaking state, and he spoke in Hindi, but he took out 2 minutes where he spoke in English, telling the whole world that we are going to chase them, we are going after them, which was very clearly interpreted by people as a statement of going to war. And that was perhaps what they were thinking. But then Donald Trump came, Trump spoke, and he said, India is friend, Pakistan is friend, let them decide it. There it stopped. After that, it was all changed. The Prime Minister Modi said that I have left the decision to the army chief, to the chiefs, to the Air Force chief, army chief. And everybody knows, every sensible person knows that army chiefs do not decide. They don't take decisions. War is always the highest political decision, taken at the highest political level. Now, if the Prime Minister passes it over to army chiefs and air chiefs, you can understand what's going to happen. So the expert opinion is that war as such will not happen. But definitely something, they will do something. And ultimately, you have to see the end game. As I told you, they are cowards, they won't go to war unless America is with them, not just simple support. Unless America is very much with them, as if Trump is leading them. Then only they can do. Otherwise, they won't. And about this, I will refer you, all three of you. I will refer this interview of a guy, Satyapal Malik. He is a very big official of Indian government, and he has served as governor of Kashmir from 2018 to 2019 October. When Article 370 was scrapped, he was the governor. He is a veteran politician in India. He has served as governor in other states of India also. He recently spoke to Karan Thapar on the Wire, the online Indian channel. That interview is definitely, you must watch it. He speaks most of the time, he speaks Hindi, but I think you can get the translation or you can get subtitles or something. He says this very emphatically. He says these guys, Prime Minister Modi, he is a coward. These guys are cowards. They are not going to do anything. He uses the word besharam. He says shameless guys, cowards. They won't do anything. What they are doing then, we see a lot of fever. You are asking me, are they going to war? Everybody asking what they are doing there, what they are up to. They are simply militarizing the Hindu mind, the mind of the majority of India. They are militarizing it. They are putting it against their fellow countrymen, the Muslims, the others, and Pakistan. They are simply mobilizing it. It was. I might take more time, but I will just stop somewhere now. But let me stop here. That it is one of the very veteran Indian journalists called Tavleen Singh. Tavleen Singh is a veteran journalist, and she has been with these people, these BJP, the RSS. I told you, this ruling class. She has been very much into it. She knows she has a lot of knowledge about them. She was speaking to the same guy, Karan Thapar, on an interview in Wire a year back or something when I watched it. She told Karan Thapar that those days, and even now also, you come across the cases of lynching, that Muslims are lynched in India if somebody is suspected of having taken beef. If somebody's mouth smells that he might have taken beef, he could be lynched. So Tawleen Singh had asked a top RSS official, functionary, a top one. She had asked him, what's this happening, this lynching? The RSS official had said, I will say it in what he had said, then I will translate it. The RSS official had said, look, आखिर हिंदू को भी मारना आ गया. That means, look, this lynching shows that after ages, after thousands of years, the Hindu has also learned how to kill. So this is what they are after. They are militarizing the majority of population. And they are thinking that they were cowards. That is because British came, Muslims came. Now they have to be bloodthirsty. This is such a dangerous game which is going on. But at this time, what is happening, it is basically geared to that. Now I would say some more things, but I don't want to continue now because the other guests are there. So if time is left and if you come to me, I will inshallah say something.
Thank you, Dr. Andrabi. It's really important that the points you highlighted is that they are not up to a war, but they are trying to create a hatred within the minds of people so that they can kill each other on the basis of that hatred. And hatred is just like a fire, and it spreads very quickly, and there is no end to it. So this is something they are trying to achieve out of the whole situation, maybe. So, Farah, what is the current status of negotiations between Iran and US talks? And when Trump was inaugurating his first term or whatsoever, he said that he will end the Ukraine war within this and that hours, for instance, but he couldn't achieve that. And then he said that Gaza, we own Gaza, we will own Gaza or whatsoever, even though the genocide is going on and starvation is going on, bombing and missiles and whatever, everything is going on over there, ethnic cleansing is going on over there. So how do you see the situation, that how successful he is in his statements he has spoken in start when he started his, because I think so it's 100 days over now after he has taken the administration and taken the office of presidency. So how do you see the both of the things?
Thank you. Actually, I'd like to be very interested in listening to the other two guys. I just want to make a wee comment on Yemen. I mean, Yemen has taken a moral position and it's working within international law and within, I believe, the Fourth Geneva Convention and trying to prevent the genocide being visited upon the people of Gaza. Above that port, Hidayat, whatever way that's pronounced, the people of Yemen have been under war, an American-inspired war through Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates for over a decade, or up to 23 million people permanently facing famine because of the sanctions that have been imposed upon the people of Yemen and their government. So to bomb that port, which is the major kind of commercial thoroughfare that allows aid and other things to come in, it's actually not just bombing a port, it's putting those 23 million people at further risk of famine. And just on India and Pakistan, my personal belief is if you listen to Modi, but you don't see him speaking, you could be listening to Netanyahu. The Israelis have a Jewish supremacist ideology. I use that term, and I've chosen those words carefully, because before the Israeli state was born through terrorism in 1948, there was no Israeli state, and that nationalism was, even though these guys were secular, it was a Jewish nationalist ideology from the end of the 19th century. That is Zionism. When you look at Hindu nationalism, as I say, if you change Hindu or Zionism and you change Gaza for Kashmir and you change the Islamophobia, which is so prevalent in Israeli society, for the Islamophobia, which is so prevalent in the Hindu Indian society. These are two birds of a feather. That's why Israel supports India. What I consider to be the false flag attack in Kashmir, I don't know if there's a connection, but I believe there was a fatwa issued in Pakistan where an imam called for people in Pakistan to go to the aid of the people of Gaza, and all of a sudden there's this attack in Kashmir. I believe that attack could have occurred at any time. I believe that our outside agent provocateurs were involved in that attack, and that they have these plans sitting on the shelf, and whenever necessary, they take it down and they instigate this form of destabilization. So I'm going to be brief. I think it's very interesting. You mentioned Iran, you mentioned Gaza, you mentioned Ukraine. None of those are separate issues. The one thing that ties all three of those together is what you've already said, which is the United States of America. So every death in Gaza is caused by the American administration. The fascist Zionists might be pulling the trigger. They might be dropping the bombs. They might be preventing the aid from getting into Gaza. None of that is possible without the American weaponry, the American finance, and the American political green light, which is given to what these thugs and barbarians are doing in Gaza and increasingly on the West Bank. Trump said he would bring the war to an end in Ukraine. I believe it's because he has always felt, as I do, it was an unnecessary war. It's back to the coup in 2014. It's back to making the people in eastern Ukraine live under a foreign-inspired, financed fascist coup. So in Donbass and that region of Eastern Europe are fighting modern-day fascists. They're fighting the descendants of Bandera. They are 27 million Russians died to end the threat of German fascism during the Second World War. So the people and the special military operation, in my opinion, are fighting fascism, Western fascism, which is being used through the proxy of Ukraine. The people of Gaza are fighting Zionist fascism. They are facing the same threat. They are facing the same inhuman ideology that dehumanizes the other to the point that they can use, like if we go back to Amalek, not leave a man, woman, child, animal alive, murder everything and everyone. So that psychology runs through this. And back to India, it's a fascist, I believe, ideology in India. So you can draw all three of those conflicts together, and America is the glue that holds these regimes in place. Without American bombs in Ukraine, the war would end tomorrow. Without American bombs being supplied to Israel, the war would end tomorrow. And without this political rhetoric and saber rattling from India, Trump came out straight away, touched India, Pakistan, and all hell will break loose. Apparently, the Zionists were in contact with the Indian government and Modi within an hour of the attack in Kashmir, offering their assistance. And, like America as the world superpower and as the leader of Western hegemonic imperialism is behind all these wars. So Trump wants to end the war in Russia because he's pivoting, I believe, to China. I believe that he believes that war in Ukraine was never necessary. It's Biden's war. Biden brought about the coup as vice president in 2014. Then you had the build-up of arms and then the special military operation in February 2022, which was a reaction to 100,000 Ukrainian armed forces on the border of the Donbass, bombing the people of Donbass as a prelude to reoccupation. So the Russians went in order to prevent a massacre. So America is behind all of this. And, Trump is the order of the deal. He said to Ukrainians, he said to Zelensky, he brought him to the White House. He said, you'll have to sign this deal. Zelensky and the EU said no. And now Zelensky has, like a little boy, signed the mineral deals. So what he's done is sign away potentially trillions of dollars of money that should go to the Ukrainian people, that should go into their infrastructure, their hospitals, their education system. That's all going to be sucked out from Ukraine and go to the oligarchs and the corporations in America. So I do believe that the war will end. Is Trump supposed to be in Red Square along with President Xi and President Putin for the victory celebrations on the 9th of May? So it'll be interesting to see the optics and what comes out of that as a generalized political statement afterwards. But in totality, if the American empire did not exist, if the American empire was not trying to keep its hegemonic position of superiority across the globe, I don't think many of these wars would be happening. And the millions who have died in Iraq and Libya and Afghanistan and Yemen and Palestine and Syria, I mean, all those people would be alive today if it wasn't for the deep state of America, if it wasn't for capitalist imperialism and the neo-colonial kind of financial, the IMF and the World Bank that forces all these conditions. They bail the country out, then you have to privatize everything, and that allows the American companies to come in. And I believe that's what the tariffs are in Britain. Just to finish, they want to force the British to open up the NHS further to what would you call it, privatization, but also American companies to come in and cherry pick the most lucrative and profitable aspects of the NHS. So this is all about money. It's all colonialism. It's ever been about resources, money, and the theft of the wealth of the global south, and indeed increasingly the people of the West.
Thank you, Farah, for sharing your deeper analysis on the Trump situation and the kind of situation their administration is creating at the moment. That's why I guess Imam Khomeini always said that America, from administration perspective, I would say they are biggest devil, you can say, who are creating trouble to all the people around the globe. And this imperial rulers, somebody has to stop them in some way. So I don't understand who is going to do that exactly. But Sister Ayman, what are your thoughts regarding US-Iran talks, if you would like to add something on that? And most importantly, if you would like to shed some light on the consequences of HTS took over, and what is the current situation in Syria at the moment, as we know that Israel is expanding in Syria as well. So how do you see the current situation over there? What would you like to share about that?
Sorry.
Sister Ayman, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Sorry. So if I could just very quickly just speak on the Kashmir point, I think everything that was said was very true. There are a lot of similarities between Israel and India's tactics of occupation. India is a country that has coordinated and trained with the IOF in Israel and adopted those kind of methods to suffocate those living under occupation in Kashmir. This is just a fact. It's modeled itself after them. It idolizes them. And this is why a lot of their tactics share the same characteristic of collective punishment. So they've truly learned from the IOF's suppression, which we see in its threats to cut off water supplies, to engage in mass arrests, and even to engage in home demolitions. These are all things that the Zionists learned from the British, and now India is learning from the Zionists. So India is ruled by a supremacist party, and those sentiments have really been echoed by groups who have been shilling for war. I think what you find is a lot of commentators and groups online, a lot of so-called rights groups actually, that have drawn parallels between Kashmir and Gaza. And some of these sectarian groups have even called for Kashmir to be flattened like Gaza, and have called the 22nd of April as the equivalent of Israel's October 7th. So it's they who make the comparisons. They're pretty much putting themselves in the position of the occupier versus the occupied. So, as was also mentioned, I think there's a lot to be said about whether this will result in full-on war, and whether this is just posturing. We'll have to see. But in terms of Syria, this so-called revolution in Syria has really brought anything but freedom to the country. Jalani, or Shara, is in a phase of trying to gain some form of international legitimacy, and excuse me, part of that is kind of rebranding, and that includes plans to take part in the Arab Summit, which is happening in Iraq, to kind of show himself as a legitimate Arab leader. And that itself has sparked a lot of outrage, given his link to ISIS and the existing arrest warrant against him for the crimes he has committed there. And he's also reigniting colonial dependencies on the West. So to gain support to rebuild Syria, he's had to succumb to a lot of Western pressure. He was even given a list of demands by Washington in order to gain sanction relief, which included dismantling the resistance in Syria. And this is a condition which he evidently accepted. His government has been arresting high-ranking Palestinian resistance leaders in the country. Just recently, they arrested Talal Naji, the Secretary General of the PFLP's General Command. And that's on top of the arrests that they've already done of PIJ's representative to Syria just a few weeks prior. So it's done that. It's also cut off supply lines between Syria and Lebanon. And the only party that these actions really benefit is Israel. It doesn't really work to the long-term benefit of Syria, other than guaranteeing that the country will remain under the thumb of Western powers, because as we know, these demands will only continue. They will only grow. They're never going to change these requirements. And Israel has recently been expanding its occupation in the country, with 2 new permanent outposts in strategic locations that overlook Lebanese territory from Syria. And they've done this while using the Druze community and the sectarian tensions over there, and the tensions between the Druze and the extremists, as part of a pretext for expanding their occupation. And it has also repeatedly bombed the country, even after Jalani won over the country, and it's essentially destroyed 80% of Syria's defense capabilities as well. And the fact that they're continuing to do these strikes on these military capabilities, even though they are now under Jalani's rule, who is open to normalization, just goes to show that the real interest, their interest in Syria, is about preventing Syria from gaining sovereignty, from being able to fight its own battles, and from rising to the level of strength it had prior to Jalani under Assad's rule, which really scared the occupation. It wants a foot in the country to have some kind of strategic leverage in the region. And considering all of this, it's Jalani who's still repeatedly talks along the lines of normalization. He openly says Israel is not the enemy, but the axis of resistance is, despite it being the Israeli entity that's bombing and is occupying the country. So this revolution has only allowed Syria to realign itself with the imperial powers after decades of being an obstacle to it. Prior to Jalani, Syria was the hub of resistance because of its location in the region, which gave it this strategic leverage close to Palestine and Lebanon. But now it's become the hub of Zionist expansion. It's turned Syria from the strategic powerhouse to just an extension of Zionist interests, and it's a real shame that a lot of our fellow brothers and sisters in the Ummah are supporting this act. But that's the reality as it stands at the moment.
And Sister Raymond, just if you can give 1-2 minute update regarding Lebanon, just in case if you have something in mind regarding the updated situation within Lebanon and between Israel and whatever is going on top, most important, anything you would like to share?
Yeah, no, actually, if I could just, I know you asked me about the US-Iran negotiations, if I could just quickly talk on that because it's a development today.
Yeah.
So we did hear just today that the negotiations are set to resume. And that's quite significant. I think Trump is someone who flip-flops a lot. He says he wants negotiations and that he wants to approach things rationally, and in the same breath, he threatens to sanction countries that are buying Iranian oil, which effectively economically isolates them. And he also blames Ansarallah's escalations entirely on Iran, despite it being an independent group with its own independent strategy and motivations. And Trump also recently came out with this kind of interview saying that Iran's nuclear program must be entirely, completely dismantled, even though Iran has already been very clear about that simply just not happening. It will not do that. But I think this is something that Iran has always been prepared for. And I think we need to remember that when we look at the negotiations and when we will likely see some of this flip-flopping happening again. It knows that the Trump administration is not trustworthy. And they also have had previous experiences with U.S. negotiations through the JCPOA, which was torn up by Trump with zero repercussions and was also a very weak negotiation. It had a lot of holes in it that could be manipulated and used to apply pressure onto Iran. So Iran has really learned from these experiences, and I think it's using this round of negotiations as an opportunity to show that the world, that it's an honest and fair country about its requirements, and that it's a rational actor, and that this time nothing can really compromise Iran's red lines, which are its defense capabilities and its state sovereignty. Even Tehran's statements since Trump's threat to apply secondary sanctions on Iran's economic allies was very clear on this, that they were ready to negotiate, that it was only the US that was stalling, pathetically actually, and it questioned whether the US was even committed to its supposed diplomatic approach to Iran when these pressures continue, and it even warned against the repetition of these past mistakes that were made before. So at the moment, I think Iran is being very rational, and the reason why I wanted to stress the point is I think some people are confused about what the negotiations actually mean, so it's important to address them. It's using it as an opportunity to really showcase itself on the international stage as the rational actor, whereas the Trump administration is being exposed as being incapable of having a consistent, clear strategy. And I think America is really learning that if it wants to negotiate, it will have to play smarter and not push to negotiate on things beyond enrichment, which it tried to do and ultimately failed to do. So the important thing to remember when it comes to the resumption of the talks is that the US has been forced to the table when it comes to Iran. It shows that the war-hungry factions within the administration are not winning at the moment, that were kind of encapsulated by figures like Waltz. It even tried to stall, and that didn't work. So the US knows that it doesn't have the adequate force yet to challenge Iran's current status as this leader of the Axis resistance, which is the greatest enemy to US interests in the region. And, if it didn't have the power to challenge it during the war on terror era, it certainly doesn't have it now. But that being said, we can't really expect Trump to act rationally. He's not a rational person. His administration isn't rational, as we're seeing. So it's very clear that we'll see this flip-flopping again. But I think the important thing to note is that Iran is firm. It has its red lines. It's not allowing it to be crossed.
Thank you, Sister Iman. Dr. Andrabi, how would you like to conclude? Would just left with 3 minutes. If you can conclude precisely. Sorry
Yes,
about the time. We just have 3 minutes only. Sorry about that.
yeah, in those 2 minutes, perhaps I must highlight something which I spoke about in a vlog, but that's in my native Kashmiri language, and perhaps Google is also unaware of that language because it's not spoken by in a very wide area, so it's not translatable. But since this is very important, so I want to say this about this narrative that has been building up after the 22nd of April regarding those killings in Pahalgam. India and Indian or the Indian regime, they would like to go to everyone and ask them, what do you think about Pahalgam killings? And they obviously it should be condemned, and they condemn it. And this is how the narrative is built. But in that vlog, I have said that it's killings when they happen in Kashmir, which has a background, which is not a vacuum. There's a proper background. So killings cannot be taken in isolation. We have to understand the whole reality. If you adjudicate on things, if you say something is good, something is bad, without seeing the whole reality, without taking the totality into consideration, you are doing an injustice, and it's absolutely unfair to say unless you have the full reality, full totality in front of you on which you say that this is good or this is bad. When I sent this video vlog to people, one of my nephews, he came back to me. He said this is very important, and he was referring to Frantz Fanon, the Algerian revolutionary thinker, who unfortunately died at the age of 36. He was killed actually, but that cannot. I can't elaborate on that. But Frantz Fanon will ask the same question: that why don't you condemn these Algerian rebels who are killing French army? He said, come on, I'm not condoning it, I'm not condemning it, I'm just understanding it. So this was the point I made in vlog also, that we must understand things. If we have to live a meaningful life, if we have to engage with the present, we must. If we have to constructively and properly engage with the present, we should understand the reality rather than making judgments on bits and fragments. We should take the total reality, and the total reality is the issue of Kashmir, the India's subjugation, India's aggression, and what India is doing there. Exactly as Ayman was also saying, the collective punishments. India has demolished houses, and this is despite the Supreme Court order that you can't do this. But even then, houses have been demolished, people have been arrested, and there is no. I mean, people have been on a very slight suspicion. Families, people, this absolutely collective punishment, and there is such a siege, such a surveillance that people have hardly people breathe, and that's it. They can't do anything more than that. That's how India is controlling Kashmir. So this is this we must understand, and I think my time is up now.
Thank you so much, Dr. Andrabi. Thank you so much, Sister Amen, and thank you so much, Farah, for being with us tonight. I'm really honored to have you on the show. And to the viewers, I would say, don't forget the people of Gaza and Kashmir and everyone who is oppressed around the globe. And we all have to stand up with truth and justice, and we have to work for peace together, and we have to fight against all the imperial, colonial, and Zionist Zionist powers. Thank you so much for watching tonight. I'll take a leave.